Welcome to Yaffe Live right here on Talk Radio 102.3. It's a revolution in common sense. Glad you're joining the show. You can join the show every day, 1 to 3 p.m. Joining us on the show right now, as he does every Thursday at this time, is Brandon Lewis. He is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can read that every day, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Subscribe as well, and it'll show up in your email inbox every day. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
I'm great, man. Glad to be here.
So we've talked a lot about some of the illegal immigration bills that didn't make it through in the session. There's some talk of some of it coming up in the next session. You guys had this story as well, that illegal alien student restrictions. We've talked about that before. Well, that bill could come up, but it could cause some conflict within the Republican Party. It seems like it already has caused some conflict in the Republican Party in Tennessee, but what do you think?
Well, it's an 80% issue. Republican primary voters absolutely want it. And William Lamberth and Bo Watson have had the courage to put forth something that's wildly unpopular to the illegal alien advocate community, which is alive and well in Hamilton County, the press, the left-leaning press, and the Democrats. And so we've not seen much of this type of behavior out of leadership in the past, but as they bring this bill, there's conflict within leadership. Jeremy Faison, who has proven whenever there's a real hard conservative vote, if his constituents are asking him to do A, he's going to do B. Like he's very easily influenced and pushed around. He said it was going to be a big fat no for him on the legislation. Originally called it a political stunt and walked back his comments. So I'm hoping that Jeremy Faison will poll and survey his own clients like what I did here in Hamilton County and find out that 78% of them are for this legislation and that he needs to swallow his pride and just represent his constituents.
Yeah, I mean, what's the main pushback? Is it just weakness on the issue in general or what?
Well, they use all these, RINOs use this argument all the time, that if something's the law of the land at the federal level, even though constitutionally we would have state rights to do it, that there's no reason to work to overturn it. But then you look at things like Roe v. Wade, right? I mean, you had RINOs say the same thing. Yeah. And so we have an opportunity to overturn it now, and I don't know that we'll ever have a better opportunity in the near future. And so to watch Republicans like Jeremy Faison want to squander and waste that opportunity while simultaneously voting against the will of their constituents, it's disheartening, but that's what leadership is made of in Tennessee right now.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis of the Tennessee Conservative, so you have another story. It's pretty interesting here. It's kind of like they exposed themselves, I guess, but you had a couple of Republican lawmakers basically admit out loud why they don't want real closed primaries. They want open primaries.
Yeah, and this is one of those that, Jeremy Faison is, maybe listening to 10% of the people in his district. Well, this is not an 80-20 issue. This is like a 90+% issue. And if you ask Republicans if they want Democrats, voting in their primaries, they say absolutely not, almost to a person. And yet there was a kind of a town hall where David Wright and Senator Richard Briggs, both of which are pretty far to the left, they started getting hit at this meeting with all these Republicans asking them why they keep fighting closing the primaries. And David Wright said, if we go further to the right, you won't see a majority of Republicans controlling the state legislature. I disagree. Most of the people in the 19th district are mature people that go back when Democrats were in the majority. And then he says this: these folks will not today say they are a Republican, but they will vote for me. And so when you have to win by catering to folks that chose Biden over Trump, but yet they're going to choose you, why? Unless you're not conservative. And then Richard Briggs piled on and said that Arizona used to be solidly red with a great Republican senators, of course, like John McCain, who's very conservative, and Jeff Flake, another one whose name matches his behavior, and said then Republicans made the tent smaller and Arizona turned blue. So it is amazing to me. I've had it happen here with my own SEC members, David Queen, Ken Meyer, Mark Harrison, argue for these Democrats voting in Republican primaries to my face. And I'm like, guys, it's just not what constituents want.
Well, I mean, what's the point in having a party if you don't have people in the party voting to represent the party? It just seems, I mean, it seems kind of like common sense, but common sense doesn't matter here.
It's so strange, man. I don't know. Like, it just is perplexing to me. And sometimes I just wonder, generally speaking, that Tennessee was Democratic for so long and people in politics tend to be older. I often wonder if most of these politicians are not just secretly Democrats who are class president types. And they're like, the only way I can climb the ladder is to tell people I'm an R, even though it's kind of repugnant to me. But maybe I can kind of tiptoe around everything. And that's what I think we see a lot of. I think that old Democrat Party, which, was in control not too long ago in Tennessee, in the legislature and other offices, I just wonder if we don't just have a bunch of holdouts that are, they put the mask on just enough to not be hardcore Democrats, but they're not really even mainstream Republicans.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's a part of it. I mean, I've seen the same thing in Alabama as well. As you had a lot of former Democrats switch Republican, and now they're Republican, but they, they still kind of vote moderate. But really, at the end of the day, we know what this is about. The moderate Republicans know they cannot win a primary, unless they have Democrat support. It seems to be what it is.
That is the nail on the head, Yaffe. That's Occam's razor. Usually the thing that is the most likely reason for something happening is the reason. And I would say in this case, you're correct.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't have to be a genius to point that out because they're pointing it out. I mean, at least these representatives, they're literally pointing it out, that they think that if we had closed primaries, they would lose. Yeah,
and they're probably not right, or wrong rather, especially in a three-way race.
Mm-hmm.
A few, the more people, two-way race, it makes a big difference. Three-way race, huge. Just a few hundred Democrat crossover votes, even in big races, can be the difference in losing and winning.
So I'm speaking with Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. We have some DOGE efforts going on that inspired some operational cost cutting when it comes to the TVA and Hamilton County. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm excited about it. I always have a lot of, you see your government tell you they're going to do stuff so often, and it's like maybe it gets done 20% of the time the way it's told. So I'm always kind of, a little bit nervous when they make these promises because often it just doesn't seem to happen. But on May 14th, TVA publicly announced the executive team was going to roll out $1 billion in cuts. And this is from the brand new TVA president, Don Mole, I guess is how you pronounce his name. And I assume, that makes sense to me after, the former guy getting the can and being one of the highest paid officials in the U.S. I'm sure there was lots of heat on TVA from a public relations standpoint to look more responsible with what they're doing. And they're also, having to spend in the other direction $16 billion in new power plants and upgrading transmission lines. Meanwhile, there's a DOGE-inspired Hamilton County Efficiency Task Force, and it was established early this year. And, last week they found $3.7 million in immediate annual savings. I imagine they probably just looked underneath the couch cushions at the courthouse. And then they found $50.5 million in long-term savings over the next decade. And, as a business coach, sometimes I walk into county and city and state offices for things like the DMV and this, that, and the other, and the lines are long, the service is terrible, and sometimes people are just sitting around doing nothing. And often I walk in the room and my inner business coach is like, wow, there's a lot of wasted overhead in this room. These people do not look very busy. And so I'm sure there's quite a bit in consulting and third-party stuff that they could spend. I can't remember what it was. Mayor Kelly in the city of Chattanooga spent somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000 to get a logo design that a fifth grader could have slapped together in Canva in 10 minutes. And it's just amazing. You see your government just waste money on stuff like that. But hopefully they can find something to cut. I'm sure it shouldn't be hard. Just close your eyes, pick up a knife, and start walking. You'll probably find something.
I mean, we could talk about the inefficiencies as well in government all day, but of course there are some who are like, hey, how about we have them in charge of our health care too? How about that?
Oh, yeah. I had that conversation with one of my employees here for annual planning the last couple of days. Not everybody that works for me is a Republican on the consulting side of what I do, and I'm open to hearing other people's views. But yes, it's just funny. It's like we suspend our disbelief and all the historical evidence because it's part of political dogma.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis of the Tennessee Conservative, you had some good news there about some good work kind of inspired by DOGE. We have some good news as well at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, where a college GOP group is coming back, is returning. What do you think?
Well, I think it's good. They had a 5-year hiatus. I'm sure, being a Republican was hard on college campuses in 2020, when you were, told by your authoritarian government, some of which were your own party, just completely disrupt your student experience and everything else. And, there was just tons of propaganda, and young people, I think in particular, are really vulnerable to it. You still see young people, kids, out with masks on and playing in parks like there's something psychological. We've damaged these children. And so I think a lot of those went through that, and there's been this backlash in the young community in colleges, particularly with men, where they're like, no, I will stand up. I will have a voice. You won't make me feel ashamed for my race, for my sex, for my political views. And so it's encouraging to watch, for the first time in my lifetime, a swing for the Republican Party in the direction of the youth. My sincere hope is that the group does not become ceremonial, which is what so many Republican groups do. We get together, we talk about politics, but we don't really engage. Like, you can't point to anything you did in the last 90 days that moved the needle. And so I hope these folks will, get with candidates locally and knock doors, make phone calls, and build lists and turn people out to the polls.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about how Republicans are kind of making inroads when it comes to the youth vote. Obviously, Democrats still get the majority, but I went to CPAC a couple of years ago, and I was amazed how many college kids and young people were there. First, I'm amazed that I'm saying young people like I'm an old guy, but I'm almost 40, so I guess I have to do that now. But when I was in college, I was like, you just didn't see that as much. If you went to a CPAC when I was in college, there's not going to be a lot of young people, college-age teenagers there. But if you go now, it's kind of surprising how much you see.
Well, I've only been to CPAC once, and I don't think I even knew. I was there at the invitation of a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away at American Majority when I was teaching campaign fundraising all over the U.S. when I'd written my book. And I went to CPAC, and even then, 10 years ago, maybe, was it 10 or 12? I can't remember, maybe longer. But there were a lot of young people at that event. And so I'm hopeful that there's a swing moving in the right direction, and look forward to hopefully at some point meeting the leadership of that group. I think that may have shown up to a Young Republicans event here recently. Right. I couldn't make it to, but hopefully I'll run into them before too long.
I need to get them on the show as well. Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative, really appreciate you coming on the show. As always, we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right. Keep them straight over there, yeah.
I'm trying.